To order, Madam Clerk.
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this budget hearing of the Franklin Township Council was made as required, indicating that this budget hearing would take place remotely via Zoom at 7 p.m. on Monday, March 11, 2024.
If we could all say the Pledge of Allegiance, you don't necessarily need to stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Embarrasson?
Here.
Councilwoman Francois?
Here.
Councilman Causey?
Here.
Mayor Kramer?
Here.
Councilman Onijaka? Deputy Mayor Potasnik?
Present, although I can't turn my video on.
Councilwoman Udine? Councilman Vassanella? Councilman Wright?
Councilman Vassanella?
Oh, there he is.
He looks like he's present. He may be having trouble answering.
Yeah, Mayor, you can't talk because he's dialing. Sorry.
I'm here.
Okay, good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
So this is a budget meeting, and some people may be wondering why we're doing it by Zoom. It's actually easier for council to have, rather than a laptop, a large computer screen in front of them, so we can look at the budget numbers more easily. So I decided, well, I came up with the idea of it, and then I found other council members agreed with it, but you can blame me if you don't like it. And just as my defense, in the 20 years I've been involved, the only people I've known to come to a budget meeting are myself and Bill Connell. So I didn't think we would be, and the press. So I didn't think we would be putting anyone out. So first we have public discussion. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, say
Aye.
nay. Motion is carried. So you can speak about anything in relation to government. This is a budget meeting. We'd appreciate it if you keep it to the budget. However, it's your freedom to speak about anything related to government.
All right, Mr. Mayor, anybody from the public wishing to speak, we ask that you use the reaction button at the bottom of your screen and raise hand feature. If you would like to speak, if you're dialed in by phone, you can use the *9 to raise your hand, and then when you're done, *9 to lower your hand. Again, if you want to speak, we ask that you use the raise hand feature, which is under the reaction icon at the bottom. Mr. Mayor, I do not see anybody indicating they would like to speak at this time.
Seeing no one from the public, I make a motion to close the public session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. I'm looking. Opposed, say nay. Okay, public session is closed. Mr. Bornlacher, it's your meeting. I guess we're starting with planning and zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Yes.
I had something pop up on my screen. I wanted to make sure it was still functioning properly. So we're going to go slightly out of the order that was originally provided, as Mr. Healy has another commitment. So, Mark, I'm going to start with your planning board budget, which should be, well, I'm hoping.
It's page 11.
There we go. I got it.
It's page 11 of the PDF.
So the first budget is planning board. It's on your screen now for all who are participating. Mr. Healy's budget was at $186,250 for the 2023 budget. and is proposed at $186,250 for this year, with a slight change in lines 027 and 028, with $50,000 more being added to legal services, which is line 27, and $50,000 less being requested under professional consultant and specialized services. Mark, if you'd like to explain, I think we know why the legal service is up. We're dealing with a number of different issues related to warehouse litigation with the planning board and zoning board. However, the $50,000 decrease was from $100,000. That was the line for the planning study and traffic study, correct?
Yes, which has started and we should be getting underway in the next month or so. We are proposing another $50,000 this year, just in case there are a need for any follow-up studies or ancillary studies associated with that. So we are proposing to keep a little bit of a budget for potential consulting services.
Okay, does anyone have a question on that budget? Okay. The next budget for Mr. Healy will be Historic Commission.
Page 13.
Quite sure why it's not sharing it, but try it again. There we go. Okay. So the Historic Commission budget generally does not spend their full budget. Mark, if you could tell us why there's $1,000 budgeted for other contractual items in the historic budget.
Well, the main reason why that's in there is for educational opportunities. There are sometimes some historic conferences that some of the members of the Historic Commission go to. So they can be educated to serve on the commission.
Okay. And is there educational classes for the new members of the Historic Commission when they're named?
There's not a requirement, but there are some,
okay.
Again, some conferences they go to from time to time related to historic preservation.
Councilman Embarrasson, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, and I sit on that as the liaison. And I know some people have taken some seminars, and I'm surprised that they didn't put in for reimbursement. And they were always asking for more courses to attend, but I'm surprised there's no reimbursement. So I guess they must be just paying it out of pocket and not submitting reimbursements.
And that's all they would need to do. Okay, so we can stop on the historic if there are no other questions on historic before I take it down. Okay. Okay, the next one will be engineering, which now falls under the Department of Land Use, of which Mr. Healy is responsible. And here's the engineering budget. The engineering budget in 2023 was at $141,345, and it's been held flat at $141,345, with a small adjustment of $750 reduced in the printing and binding, and an increase of $750 in uniform allowance. That would be for the clothing for the field inspectors for the engineering department. Are there any questions on the engineering budget?
So would we need any engineering expert testimony because of the lawsuits? Do we expect anything?
If that is the case, then certainly they would be hired as expert witnesses through the township attorney's office. I would not anticipate them at this particular point, to be honest, in calendar year 24, having that need.
Okay.
Would that expense come under engineering or legal?
It would probably come under legal because they would be expert witnesses in a trial. And we should understand that while there's $133,900 for professional consultant and specialized services, which is in fact the township's portion of the township engineering costs with CME, that's the contract costs. The bulk of the money that is paid to CME for engineering services is for escrow work done for the planning board, zoning board, and any inspection work that they do in the field that's charged as escrow for new development. Are we good? Okay.
You're good.
Okay, Mark, that's your last. Is there any other ones? Environmental Commission. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You're muted, Mark.
Bob's right, environmental.
Environmental Commission was budgeted at $11,200 in 2023, and there's an increase up to $12,650. And the Environmental Commission exhausted, and this reflects an increase in the Environmental Commission for a slight increase in the contract for the sustainability consultant that provides work for the Environmental Commission. That would be Tara Kenyon.
Bob, in preparing for this, I looked at, I'd asked Tara back in October to provide the breakdown for their potential budget. In that email, I noticed she references Resolution 357-23, and she references an amount of $15,000.
And that's what I thought, and that's why I was wondering why the department request was at 11.1.
Yeah,
and I was going to talk to you about it later.
That would have been my mistake. So if
I think that, well, right, and that should reflect an increase of actually another 39.
Yeah, 3,900, which would bring it up to 16,550.
Now, the increase, Mark, in other miscellaneous items, are you familiar with the reason why that is the case?
Yeah, well, they cited a few things. The usual plaques for the annual Environmental Stewardship Awards, educational opportunities for environmental commissioners, so that's similar to the Historic Commission that we just spoke about. And then the last item is signage and promotional items for events, signage for Adopt a Drain, film series, supplies and refreshments, public information session needs, etc.
Okay.
As well as ANJAC dues for the New Jersey Association of Environmental Commissions.
Yes, the Environmental Commission has become much more active over the last, say, year and a half, 2 years. So I certainly understand why they now need some funding to do the things that they're looking to do. Councilmember Potosnik, does that sound about right?
The 15,000?
No, at 1,500. At 1,500 for.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that there's been discussion at the environmental.
It's hard for me to know how much a sign is or what have you, but I think it's more than they've had, which would be, they'd be very happy.
Okay, very good. Are there any other questions about the Environmental Commission budget? And we'll make that adjustment to the copy. Kathy, if you're taking notes, that should be reflected as 15,000, not 11.1. And Mark, I think that completes all of yours, does it not?
It does. And thanks to everybody for letting me cut in line. Thanks, Raven.
Mark.
Bob, I made that adjustment.
Thank you, Kathy.
It took me a minute to unmute, sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
Thank you so much and have a good evening, Mark.
Okay, so I believe, Mr. Mayor, our next budget will be HR.
Yes.
That would be our HR Director, Raven Williams.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And the HR budget again, is proposed at $138,250, the same number as it was budgeted at for 2023. There's some transfers of money from one line to another that don't amount to a great deal of money. $100 here, $100 there, $1,000 there, $1,600. It in the end, the budget was kept flat. Actually, I take that back. It was decreased by $235. There's a number of things, obviously, the HR department budgets for, including the employee assistance program, medical expenses, including physicals for new hires, as well as new hires in the police department, psychological exams, and what have you, and the wellness program for the township, and also a significant amount of money for education and training for not only the management coaching program, but other education and training programs for employees throughout the course of the year. So, are there any questions on the HR budget?
Seeing none.
Okay. Thank you, Raven. See you
All
in the
right,
morning.
thank you. All right, have a good evening.
Good evening.
Bye-bye.
Municipal court.
Thank you. I'm just doing a little housekeeping on my files here that I'm working off of. The next would be Kayla Martinez for municipal court.
Good evening.
I'm getting your screen up there, Kayla. Bear with me. There we go. Okay. So the municipal court under the court administration of Kayla Martinez is a budget that's proposed at $32,100, a $200 decrease in 2024 from 2023. It again has some movement of money from one line to another to better adjust for the needs of the court.
So my question is, it looks like we've never done postage for the municipal court. I would think the court would need to have postage expenses.
I think that the postage that's generally used by the municipal court, Mr. Mayor, is budgeted in the main purchasing budget that we'll speak about in a couple budgets.
Okay.
I don't think that there's a whole lot of FedEx and UPS charges. The postage and express charges for some departments, including things like the collector's office. So the collector and the assessor budget postage separately from the general postage in general administration.
Okay.
So are there any questions on the requested budget for the court?
Nope. Looks good.
Okay. Thank you, Kayla. A quick one for you.
Yes, thank you guys. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Collector of revenue.
Collector of revenue. Thank you, Mayor. And that would be Rosanna Gutierrez. There she is. Rosanna, I'm going to put your budget up in a second once I find it here. There we go. Okay, so the collector's budget is proposed at $22,373, an increase of $2,507 from 2023, with all of that in conferences and meetings. Rosanna, could you explain why there's an increase in conferences and meetings for you and your staff?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So those are mainly for the classes. Even though I'm seeing an educational and training line, but it's mainly for the Rutgers classes, which is in red there.
So that's for the collector classes for your staff so that they can get.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, I should have added in that line rather than conference and meeting.
Which we can adjust. That's
Yeah, so it's just moving, but it is in the tab, it's section as Rutgers.
yeah, it is under the main tab, right? Okay. So we're given the opportunity. The classes are offered by Rutgers University, and we have several employees who are seeking their collector certification through Rutgers in the collector's office. Are there any other questions on the collector's budget?
So that's really nearly doubled from last year's, yeah?
And we have newer employees who are now seeking the classes. New hires that haven't had any of the classes. Rosanna was hired as a collector when we hired her. Tiffany in the collector's office was an account clerk. She's now the deputy collector because she was able to take the courses and become certified as a collector. And that's what we're offering for the other employees as well.
Okay.
Okay. And see here, Mayor, there's printing and binding, but again, your postage is also included in the general postage, Rosanna?
Tax is on the water's in the water budget.
The water's in the water utility, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions for our collector? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Rosanna. We'll see you in the morning.
Rosanna.
Have a great night. Take care.
Right. Tax assessor.
Assessor, thank you.
He's really the assessor.
He is the assessor, and his budget says assessor, not tax assessor, correct, Mayor?
Right.
So tonight we have Mr. Carabelli, our assessor, and Carol Radjevich, who is our deputy assessor. And some or most of you probably don't know Carol because Carol was brought onto the staff several months ago to replace Carl Eby, who retired after about 38 years with the township. So Carol is our new deputy assessor, and she's in the office every day. So the assessor's budget has some, and I'm going to address some things that might seem somewhat vague here. The assessor's budget is proposed at $123,250, which is a decrease of $400. But I wanted to talk about one particular line that will need to have some corrections. I spoke with both Carol and Rick this morning about this line 077 that I just highlighted, which is called telecommunication, fax, email, internet, and it shows a $3,000 increase. But really, that's not a $3,000 increase in telecommunication costs. There is a request for a new piece of software, and I'll let Rick and Carol explain it. Rick?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. We've been following, I guess, for over 5 years now. There's been an outfit that was putting together software that would assist an assessor in doing quite a few things. The things that would be of relevance to us is finding comparable sales data, which could assist us in our annual reassessment program. My predecessor, a number of years ago, I think around 2007 or 2008, put together a program where we could collate data. And then I know that some of the council people, and in particular the mayor, are familiar with this. We've demonstrated the program several times at public meetings, but this program is much more advanced and takes the data collection to a new level. The other thing that the program would help us with is working with comparable sales searches to help defend county tax appeals at the tax board level. It's a $3,000, annual fee. We'd like to at least try it one time. Like I said, we've been following it for a number of years. Carol actually has experience with the program through another office prior to coming to Franklin. And we both agreed that it's something that we wanted to put in the budget this year. I tried to calculate how much time we could save. And I'm trying to say, well, so many hours, but we'll actually save days of time and research, especially with the annual assessment program, keeping in mind that we have a number of residential districts throughout town that all have to be analyzed. And again, some of the council members are familiar with that process. So it's rather time consuming, and this is a way to short circuit that. And we're asking that the program be considered in this year's budget. Thank you.
And you're saying that it's going to be more accurate, so your assessments will be more accurate and easier to defend them?
Well, I'd like to believe, Mayor, that our assessments are accurate. What we're looking at is saving probably quite a bit of time in putting the annual reassessment program together. I know Carol was first exposed to it this year, being a new deputy, and I could tell you she spent weeks on it, as did her predecessor. Hopefully this program would expedite that. And it's also beneficial when a taxpayer comes in and says to us, and again, Mayor, I know particularly that you've been exposed to this as well. How did you get to that number? If we could sit down and put some data into a program and get the answers within a matter of minutes, I think that's pretty convincing to a taxpayer as well.
Rick, did you try it out in the last assessment? We all received bills. Was there any trial period or trial use of that software for this cycle?
I've been monitoring that software. They've come in and demonstrated it to us at least 2 occasions. I'm also president of the Mercer County Board of Taxation. We've looked at it for our assessors in Mercer. I don't know if any of them are on board with it yet, but I think they've reached the point now where they have a nice product that it's worth at least venturing into.
Rick, one question. Good evening, first of all. Is this just one-time expenditure or is it going to be annual?
It's an annual expenditure. Keep in mind that the data has to be fresh for our assessments to be accurate. So it isn't something we could buy at one time and it's good for a number of years. At the end of the sampling period for the sales data, then the old data is no good. So they're constantly inputting that, and that's where a lot of the time and effort goes.
Rick, is there a future on that software for the public? Maybe could look at their assessment. Is there a view that provides for the public, or it's only strictly internal?
There's 2 parts to any assessment program, and that's set up by the state. There's what's referred to as the Mod 4 side, and that's basically the assessment history, and that would go to all 23,000 properties. The other side is the acronym is CAMA, Computer Assisted Mass Appraising, and that side is considered a work in progress. So it's not available to the public. So portions, in answer to your questions, portions of what this program does are available.
Oh, okay, good. I would think that could avoid many calls to the office.
Well, we're going to get in all candor, we're going to get the calls, but it makes it easier to explain our position.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Rick, I just have one question. So we've talked about residential properties. Is this software also useful in commercial appraisals and appeals?
No, because commercial, yeah, it's a different, the courts have taken a different look at non-residential properties, Bob, and it's a whole different ballgame at that level. It's almost, the assessment is too particular to the property. It's not like one shoe fits all, where you can say, this is similar to this, that, and the other thing. The courts have always steered away from that. And there's different approaches that they view that are not available in any program, to be honest with you, that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
So Rick, would it be safe to say that you would utilize the software as a tool to help you calculate the individual residential assessments?
Absolutely. Okay. That's the ticket. Yeah, that's exactly. It's what we're doing now. I don't want to make you think that or make anyone think that we're short changing the process. It's the same process. This is just a better way.
It's a tool to help you. Yeah.
It's a new mousetrap.
I think that we should allow him to purchase the tool.
I agree.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I agree. Yep.
So he did include, like I said, Rick and Carol did include it in their budget. It's just they didn't have a line in their budget for that type of software, so we'll just have to make an adjustment to the actual budget workbook and include it in the budget once we get to that point in this process.
And that will increase it by 3,000.
No, it's already here, Councilwoman. They actually, so there was actually some cutting in their budget in other lines to reduce down, where they actually show a reduction of $400, and that includes this $3,000 in the budget already in the proposal.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else on the assessor? So before we go on, the fact that he got new software reminded me, during planning and zoning, should we have been discussing that aerial photography software that the Councilman Barrison, you and I saw at
I believe, and I'll ask him to jump in, I believe that's included in the IT budget?
Yes, we are on a trial program right now, but we've included that in the IT budget.
Okay, we'll get to that then. Okay, thank you. So next is purchasing.
Okay, let me try to get my screen back the way it's supposed to be here and stop sharing this. Okay. Okay, and I'm sorry, purchasing, Mayor?
Yes, page 7 on the PDF.
Thank you. Purchasing. Cindy Ballinger, our purchasing agent, I believe is with us. Are you here, Cindy?
I am.
Okay. So our purchasing budget includes many things that are utilized across all of the departments. And it is at $113,900, which is an increase of $3,700. You'll notice that this is one of those budgets that gets spent nearly to the 100% mark. And one of the biggest things, and showing a $3,700 increase, which reflects on the bottom of the total expenses, is postage, Mr. Mayor, which you raised earlier. And as we all know, postage rates were increased by the United States Postal Service, I'm sorry, not parcel, postal. And this increase is reflected on line 22 in Cindy's proposed budget. And are there any questions for Cindy on the purchasing department budget?
Nah, that seems to be the only increase.
That's it. Yep. So, if there are no other questions.
Recreation.
I'm sorry, what was that, Mayor?
Recreation would be next.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to stop sharing here again. Thank you, Cindy.
Hey, thank you. Have a
See you
good night.
tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Get some of this out of the way. Okay.
Mr. Onijaka, if you're speaking, you were muted.
So tonight for the Recreation Department, we have Acting Director Wendy White.
Good evening, everyone.
There she is. And Wendy will be talking about the recreation budget, which for the types of items in this budget fund both the Recreation Department at the Senior Community Center as well as the Youth Center for a variety of things that are included in this type of budget. There's a number of other programmatic things that are funded through fees collected from participants that then are kept in the Recreation Trust until they're expended to fund further programmatic expenses. So the budget for the Recreation Department is proposed at got to put my glasses on again. Those numbers look small. $105,530, which is a decrease of $345 from the 2023 budget. The Recreation Department and the Youth Center both function in great part from fee-based programs to fund existing, the current program and future programs as well.
Bob, I have a question on, I'm looking at the actual for 2023. Is that through the first 3 quarters or is
It's only through the first 3 quarters, correct, Councilman?
Okay.
Okay, any questions here?
Nope.
All right, thank you, Wendy.
Good night.
All right, construction. Well,
Yep.
do we want to go over the senior transportation?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. That's okay. I can handle senior transportation if Wendy is gone. Let me just do that. I just need to bring that up. Thank you, Mayor. I also will bring up later another budget that was inadvertently skipped that I can handle as well. So senior transportation is a contract with Somerset County to provide the bus driver and maintenance on the bus that we own. They operate our bus and they maintain our bus. And for that, we pay Somerset County through a contract. This year is $92,423.38, which should work out to exactly a 2% increase over 2023's budget of $90,611. So an increase of $3,588. Somerset County increases that contract annually at a rate of 2%.
Bob, this is only for seniors?
This is just the senior transportation bus.
Okay.
Correct.
Is that a Scoot bus, Bob?
No, it's not the Scoot bus. Scoot is Somerset County Office of Transportation, SCOOT. This is our senior transportation bus for our seniors to either be brought to the senior center or they can also arrange for transportation for things like doctor's appointments within 5 miles of Franklin Township, or they can also utilize that transportation to go to the grocery store.
Is it available 24/7 or is it?
No, absolutely not. Business hours, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Yep.
Not the holidays, right?
No. Business when the county is open.
Okay.
Run by the county.
Okay.
Okay. So that is transportation.
On that note, Bob, what would happen if somebody needs it over the weekend? They have just to do it themselves or they have to arrange?
That's
something?
correct.
Okay.
Is the next one construction code?
Construction code, correct, Mayor.
Yeah. That's on page 14.
And apparently I closed it out accidentally, so now I have to open it again. Bear with me. Okay, so tonight we have with us our construction official, Barry Wilbur. Barry, are you
Mayor? Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Hey, Barry.
So the construction code budget is proposed at $391,775, which is a $1,000 increase. That $1,000 is included in printing and binding. My assumption is that we have an increase in construction forms, Barry?
That's correct. The cost of printing those forms skyrocketed.
So that would be for all of the different permit application forms and what have you?
Yes.
So the state doesn't pay for those for us, correct?
No, they don't pay for those. We do have contractors who print their own forms off of the DCA's website, and we're seeing more of those come in, which helps to reduce our costs.
Okay.
Are we trying to go more online?
That is online, yes.
No, but are we trying to go for online submissions? No paper.
Oh, the state has been trying to do online submissions, plan reviews, things like that. They've been trying, I think they started about 5 years ago, and they keep putting it off.
So we don't have permission to do it yet?
No, we don't have permission to do that yet.
Because I get ads all the time for software that'll do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Barry tonight? If not, thank you, Barry.
You're welcome.
IT, page 15.
Okay, we'll start with the IT operating budget. So let me just clear some things up here. Okay. We'll also do the IT capital budget tonight, so we can follow that with after we're done with this one. So the IT budget's a big one. The IT budget is currently proposed at $490,301, which is an $83,995 increase. That 83 of that increase, $83,995. There actually is an $84,895 increase in line 138, which is software licensing. So I will let Mr. McQueen, who's been helping me run this meeting, explain his budget.
Yeah, the big increase is the software licensing. And again, across the board, we're seeing prices go up about 10% per software. We also have one of the contracts that we have for the vehicle tracking software, which is the GPS software for all the municipal vehicles and municipal plows. That was a 5-year agreement that came due this year. So that is a substantial portion of that 84,895 was that increase.
Now, Bob, was there any increase? So obviously one of the other things that has become somewhat costly but also very much needed is costs related to cybersecurity and maintaining the security on our network. Is that included in these costs as well?
Yeah, that's correct. We have added some modules as the cybersecurity guidelines have changed. So our Manage Engine program, which is mandated for cybersecurity purposes, and our other software which does patch management. So that's definitely in here, which were new costs.
Okay, are there any questions on we'll call it the operating budget for the IT department?
When is is that going to be happening every year, Bob? This substantial increase, or we are good for the next cycle, 4 years, 5 years, or whatever that might be?
I believe it's not going to fluctuate like it did. The one big thing was the GPS software, which was a 5-year agreement that came down. I am doing that yearly so that we're not hit with a big cost. It was not a substantial savings moving it out to the 5-year program. And then the other issue was our Office 365 with Microsoft. That term was up and was renewed this year, and that went up. So we should be pretty good moving forward.
So one of the things that I'll just add, because the joint insurance fund gets involved with cybersecurity, and we are our cyber insurance is through the joint insurance fund, and what the JIF now has required of all of the member JIFs, not only in the Central Jersey JIF, for which we're a member, but all of the JIFs that are within the municipal excess liability JIF, is to meet certain standards for cybersecurity related to network protection. And if we don't meet those standards, there's an increasing deductible up to a point where we could be uninsured for that risk. We are not, and we are not in a position currently that we have to be concerned about that. But this is a very frequent conversation. I'm on the cybersecurity task force for the JIF. We actually have a meeting coming up to discuss the protocols going forward for 2024 and the requirements that all municipalities will have to meet. As a member of a JIF, any municipal risk that any town any risk that is in another town is a risk for us as well, because we are insured by a joint insurance fund. So we have to continue to maintain this standard for network security to avoid things like ransom demands from malware takeovers of our network, which we have not dealt with this. Other towns have. It can cost a tremendous amount of money. We want to continue to maintain our insurance, which means we have to continue to maintain our network protections.
And security costs are not something that we can skimp on, and they're going to continue to go up and up and up.
No, and the costs just continue to rise because technology advances, and unfortunately the bad people get better at doing what they do as well, and that means we have to keep the doors shut all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it is also why vendors or other software costs are going up, because they constantly have to rewrite their software to be more secure so that it isn't hackable as best they can. So that's driving cybersecurity costs are driving across the board software costs up.
Right. So that part of the budget will never go down.
I don't think so, Councilwoman. I don't think I ever will anticipate software licensing going down.
Nope, nope, nope.
So, Bob, you have an update on the other question Mayor asked about the mapping software? Is that somewhere in here?
So that's included in that line, Councilman. Yes, that's where it will be.
All right.
The reason why we included it, and much of the software applications in the town are included in the IT budget, as opposed to different departments having applications, and that's why Mr. McQueen instant messaged me while we were talking about the assessor's request for that software, saying that it should be in his budget, and I agreed with him. So when we move that money for the assessor's software, it'll go to the IT budget. Given the fact that the IT department controls all of the software installations on all of our hardware, we include all of that. The only place where you'll see software costs in a budget is the police department. And so there's a shared cost for the town management software, SDL, across a couple different departments to include the water department and the construction department, who uses it the most. But for this particular application, it is a GIS function, the software that we were talking about, that the mayor was discussing. And obviously we have a GIS technician who does all of our mapping work that works in the IT department. So he'll probably use it more than anyone. So, okay, so that's that budget. The next budget would be Mr. McQueen's capital budget.
Oh.
Okay, so this is a capital budget that also for IT purposes includes the water capital for IT as well as the open space capital for IT. Bob, you want me to go down here? And obviously the yellow column is 2024. This is the fifth year of a 5-year plan for IT capital, and next year it'll be the fourth year of a 5-year plan as we continue to move forward. But Bob, do you want to just, I can scroll when you tell me to scroll, and you can explain what the costs are associated on your budget here for capital.
Yeah, I mean, typical, the computer replacement at the top, that's all computers, servers, printers, iPads, that comes out of capital. Police department's looking at a new ID system to replace their current outdated system. The point of sale is to replace the cash registers that we are currently in the 1980s that we use in the clerk's office and in the collectors. So that is what that budget is for, to replace those with a point of sale system.
Can I ask a question on that, Bob? I found out that we don't accept credit card for the tax, the water department. Is that being upgraded?
We do not take credit card in person. If they play through the portal, they're welcome to pay with a credit card or electronic funds transfer. We do not take them at the window.
Oh. Even for permits, other issues, just not for the bill. I'm talking about a builder comes in and wants to pay for.
Yeah, we don't take any in-person credit card fees right now.
But is it available remotely? Can they do it online? Not the water bills, but other service fees and stuff.
No, it is not available. The only thing, if they go to the kiosk and pay their water bill or tax, they can do an EFT or credit card to do them. They're the only two. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. They're the only two that we take online. None of
other than the municipal. The municipal court takes them for fine payments, but that's through the state of New Jersey.
Correct.
Is there a reason why we don't allow that? That seems like a convenient way to pay fees for the people. I'm just curious why.
We've had some discussion on it. There is some accounting stuff because every department goes into their own general fund, and then they would have to transfer to the main fund at the end of the month. Bob and I have had conversations about this, and it is something that we're looking at. It's just not in this year's budget yet. And if we do it, in all honesty, there has to be, the credit card fees. There's certain laws in New Jersey about how much you can charge back. And then is the town going to absorb those fees? So that's where there's some discussion between council and Bob's office that needs to happen to give us guidance on the direction we need to go.
We're not allowed to pass the fees on unless it's an online transaction. So, so when someone comes in, Councilman, and they're building a large building and the fees are significant for that, the permits in the construction office, because obviously the fees are based on the cost of the work that's being done. That when you add another 3.5% of the credit card fee, that's something that the town would have to eat if we took credit cards in person. That's the primary reason why it hasn't been done at this point. And we're not allowed to pass on the fees unless it's an online transaction. I can't tell you why that is the law, but that's the law.
So we could, technically, we could say credit cards transaction would only be online. That could be done?
And that's what we're trying to figure out a way to do across the different departments that accept fees. It's there's a number of departments that accept fees for either permits or other items. So that's the thing that we're trying to figure out how all of that can play out.
Yeah, I bring that up only because Hillsborough allows that and our departments don't. So I was just curious why that is the case. And I think that would be a convenience for the public if we make it available online so we can pass on the fees. So I think
we can continue to explore it. And I'll contact the administrator in Hillsborough and find out how they're doing it there.
All right.
Okay. So then you have 10,000 here.
Yep, video surveillance upgrades. There's been a couple incidences outside the property that haven't been covered on video. So it's really adding some additional cameras to cover some angles that haven't been covered in the past. There's some modifications to Community Resource Bureau for the police department. Getting card access on the doors upstairs. They can utilize the office area upstairs, which currently they don't have data upstairs. So we need to do some work to make that building usable on all levels. The municipal WAN upgrades, we are finishing a project that is going to be more resilient and get the network in better shape. So that's where that difference comes in.
Resilient to what?
A redundancy, so that if we lose internet connection in one building, we fail over to a secondary site. We also need to upgrade the guest Wi-Fi within the buildings because now it's just not, we don't have enough bandwidth within the buildings to handle the guest Wi-Fi. So it's really just, it's a failover system and it's part of the disaster recovery plan.
Okay.
That's the same thing. Those two fees there. The door card access replacement of public safety. They've had some additional doors they're requesting card access to, so they can better track who's going in and out of those doors and provide better security. Digital signage. I know we've brought this up before. I'm coming down in price, just trying to make it more user friendly for people to come in the building. They constantly come in the back door stand and don't know where they want to go. So we're trying to do some signage for that. We have some licensing available that really would minimize the cost if we were able to get this and buy the player and the screen that we would need for it. And
you don't like my signs printed out on 8.5 by 11 paper on your door anymore? Okay.
I can seem to follow them, but we do have a lot of people get lost. And then the MDM software, that is our mobile device management, and we are adding more mobile devices. We have more iPads and stuff and laptops going out that we really have the ability. This software or this program allows us to remote wipe those devices in the event that they were lost or stolen to prevent and keep our data secure. So we have to increase because we have had more devices added and we are currently at our maximum. So we need to add to that program. Phone replacement, we're continuing to do that. We had a number of phones that were end of life. They're only passing the maximum. Our computers plug into the back of the phone. So we have a VoIP over IP network or VoIP network. So it's voice over IP. The phone then supplies internet to the computer. A number of our phones are only supplying 10 meg, which is causing very slow computers for the users because they're outdated. It's now 100 meg, so we're in the process of replacing those phones and upgrading. Most of them are within the police department as well. And then the large conference room, that just creating a better recording solution up there for meeting, broadcast, and recordings to get better clarity.
Thank you.
The Granicus.
I thought you might like that one, Mayor.
Although the last one hasn't been that bad, but it could stand some improvement. Thank you.
Wait, can you go back to 39? You skipped that one.
Because there's nothing budgeted in this year.
Oh, that means it's working, or we acknowledge it'll never work?
No, that's the camera.
That's the cameras for broadcasting in the council chambers. It was budgeted last year. We have been trying to get proposals on the system replacement, and I actually have a call on Thursday with the vendor to look at this. So it was budgeted last year. We didn't spend the money. It's probably going to happen this year because we've been trying to get quotes on it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, the Granicus Oprah software, that is a request of the clerk's office. It is going to vastly reduce the amount of time they're spending on Oprah request and make a public portal, which is really good. Trying to see the video surveillance upgrade again, outdoor PD, they're requesting additional cameras, and then fire and the circle. Right by the circle by the fire entrance. Office redesign, I do have in here. We did acquire an additional staff member 2 years ago who's basically sitting underneath of a counter in our office because we do not have space in our office for an additional person. So we've been in talk with Public Works and Bob about trying to allocate some more office space and redesign to make it more user-friendly for our employees because they're really on top of each other. And we lost a lot of storage, so we have stuff literally all over the place. The VMware, that is a server upgrade that we're looking to do. We're currently on a Microsoft version of virtual servers. We're looking to upgrade those. They are end of life. We did have a pretty significant crash last year that took us some time to recover from the virtual machines. We were able to do it because we have a good backup network, but we needed to upgrade those machines. The PAM tool, which is Privileged Access Management, that is a cyber requirement. That is one of the insurance requirements that we have to institute across the board. Portable cellular device, that is so that we can provide internet access at such events such as Franklin Day at the Township tent. Right now, we scramble to do stuff off of our hotspots on phones. It's just not good. So this device kind of sets up a hotspot for a common area. It's a portable Wi-Fi device that you can take out. It can also be used by the public safety. If they had a situation and they're out remote and needed Wi-Fi access, they could take this out. It works off cellular network.
Bob, question for you. How many devices is that? How many devices is that? The portable cellular, what are we purchasing? Like,
it is one device that has multiple antennas, so it's kind of like a portable cell tower. So it's going to receive cell signal, and it's going to be able to broadcast out, so people will be able to connect to it. Obviously, you're not going to get 100 people connecting to it, but you're going to be able to get 20 to 40 to 50 connections to it.
Why do we need that?
Because we do events like Franklin Day and we have no internet access, and they do the construction amnesty program and they do tax lookups, and we have no way without doing hotspots on phones, which is really spotty and it's not fast, to provide that service to the residents.
Got it.
And it can also be used by the police department in an emergency to be able to provide a cellular hotspot for if there's doing a field search in an area that has poor cellular coverage. This is something that can provide cellular service for our emergency services as well.
So it's a secure network, not open to public, right? Just for the
It would be It would be a closed network, and then we would set it up for the employees to connect into it when needed.
Makes sense.
Doesn't it need the internet or something to work?
That's
It's
what
working
it
off the
is.
cellular.
So how does the cell, you need a cell signal
like
to
a-
make cell signal?
It's like the data. It's like a big data hub for the phones connecting our
It's like
devices.
a one cell tower.
Yeah,
It will boost the cellular signal. So if you're in an area that has low cell signal, as long as this device gets it, it will boost that signal to make it more usable.
Does it have an antenna that goes up high or something?
It's a box with a antenna that screws onto the side of this box. So it's really kind of like it's a ruggedized case. The components sit in it. Similar to the modems that are in the police cars that provide access for all of their stuff. It's the same type of thing, but just portable for people to be able to connect into.
Okay.
I was just wondering, like, if in certain, like Bob said, in dead zones, if there was an outage, but if there's a dead zone, then you don't even have anything to pick up and amplify.
That's correct. You're absolutely right.
I thought like maybe there was like an internet connections, like fire hydrants all around town, even though there's not fire hydrants all day.
I was thinking the same thing, Ed.
Okay, CRB modifications, EOC.
Yep, that's the Emergency Operations Center. There was an incident this past year with a suspicious package dropped off at Public Safety, which caused an evacuation. They realized we need to have a secondary Emergency Operations Center site. So they're requesting money to modify so that we would be able to move operations down to the Community Resource Bureau for them to operate as the Emergency Operations Center.
It's a one-time cost.
Correct.
Yep. So
Well, we
the
say it's a one-time cost, Mayor, but as you know, whenever you buy equipment,
Yeah, you'll need to upgrade it, but it's not.
it's a one-time cost now, but 5 years from now, that equipment may be end of life and we have the budget
Sure.
for it again.
Sure.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, the next two items are fire prevention that for additional vehicles and fire inspectors that they're going to be getting. I believe that, Bob, if I'm not mistaken, that's an.
So I'll touch on this. So when we do the fire.
Somebody needs to mute.
No.
I got it. When we do the fire prevention budget at the next hearing, we'll have a discussion about a request from Fire District Number 1 to increase staffing of our fire prevention department, to increase the number of fire prevention inspectors available during the daytime for additional firefighting capabilities. This equipment, not the portable radios and the mobile radios, and we'll also talk about vehicles when we do the general capital budget, until such time as an agreement is reached, if an agreement is reached between the township and the fire district. These will go unpurchased, but we need to include them in the budget should that agreement go through. What you should know here is that if it does go through, the initial discussions are that these costs would be borne by reimbursement by the fire district, not by the township. But we would need to include them in our budget because we would need to purchase them and then get reimbursed.
Okay, money in, money out.
Money in, money out, exactly.
And then the last item is request from Recreation for a portable speaker system.
Which I believe is primarily to be used at the gazebo.
Yes.
So that's the general IT capital. The next line, and we can discuss this here, or we can discuss this when Carl Hauk is here to talk about the general water capital. But Bob, you can probably cover there's only two things here, and I think you can probably cover them tonight.
Bob, I have a question. Is there any line item, any place to possibly clean up that engineering department office? There's so.
Councilman, that has nothing to do with this budget here.
Okay, not in this one in general. There's nothing in here, so we can't digitize, for example.
There already is. That's already part of a budget that you've already what's the word I'm looking for, Bob McQueen?
Laser piece,
laser piece, right?
Yeah, we're working on digitizing them. And we have started that process this year. We did code enforcement last year. We're starting on planning, zoning, and engineering this year. Unfortunately, the stuff you see in their offices is the recent documents. We're cleaning out the archives, which are all old storage rooms, and they just took about 2 truckloads of documents away about a month ago to digitize them.
This is a multi-year project. It's not something that gets done in 1 year.
Okay.
All right, the water budget, the 35,000 is anything for water computer printer servers that go to them, gets billed to the water side of things. Then the SCADA server rebuild, we had a number of SCADA servers fail during a lightning strike, and they were non-recoverable. We needed to rebuild them, so we're working that process is to build those servers back up and update them.
So for those of you who don't know SCADA, and we'll talk about it again at the next budget hearing with Carl Hauk, but the SCADA system is what controls and monitors all of our water system, the pump stations, the valves that and interconnects with the other providers of water to our system. So it obviously is a very important part of the water utility.
So I don't know the technology. Is there a way to, when these are reinstalled, to make them survive a lightning strike, or is that
we are taking yes. To answer that, yes, I have taken and made sure that there are redundancy on these backups on these to try to prevent any of that from the future happening.
And the last is an additional $50,000 for cameras in our parks and open space based on requests from the Open Space Advisory Committee, Trails Committee, and this is just a project that is ongoing as we continue to secure certain areas of our parks and open space parking areas.
Bob, how many cameras are we talking about? And also one question I have, is that monitoring done in-house, or we pay another company to do it?
No, we don't pay it. No, it's monitored by the police department. We have our own 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week monitoring company. And not all cameras are monitored, but these cameras are recorded, not necessarily monitored 24 hours a day.
Gotcha. And how many cameras are we talking about, Bob?
So currently, we have an open space and let's see, 1, 2, 3. So currently there's 3 parks that have cameras. Two and a third that's a project right now from last year.
Yeah.
And this is not only the cameras, but also the back end equipment for them, because there's the work involved for the electric to get it to the camera, or if they don't have electric, there's cellular, it could be solar. It depends on the location for the application, what the cost associated with it is. For instance, the camera out at the John Clyde open space property is cellular and solar because there is no fiber optic cable to connect to in proximity to where the camera is in the parking area for that open space property, and there's also no electric. So that was a very expensive camera to install. In fact, I think that camera and all of the related equipment today would probably be about half of the money that we're currently looking in this year's budget.
So Bob, as you know, the crime rate, the burglary, and everything has gone up, and I've heard so many people saying that how come Township not putting cameras at the entrances to various, communities? Is that
Well,
something?
that would not be this money.
Correct.
This,
Yeah.
this is
Okay.
open space trust money specifically related to parks and open space.
Right. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
So this includes the one that monitors the trash cans too, right, Bob?
The one that monitors the trash cans. I'm not sure what you mean, Councilman.
Don't we have some
I think we have
sensors?
sensors for that.
Yeah, sensors that tell us when they're full.
Oh no, that's the big
the
belly
trash
garbage can. That's what you mean. But
Yeah.
no, that's not under the park and open space security cameras. That's budgeted separately in the open space capital budget that we'll talk about at the next meeting.
Oh, okay, all right.
The next budget meeting. That's handled by Tara Kenyon and Carl have that budget. If they're that, but that's it out of the same trust, obviously, but in a different budget.
Got it.
Okay. So, any questions on Mr. McQueen's capital budget?
The new cell tower, the portable cell tower, can be used at the gazebo as well, because
It would, yes, it would be able to be used there as well.
Right. Okay. Good.
Okay. All right. Well, I would say good night, Bob, but you can't leave.
No. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
You're not
Bob.
allowed. You're not allowed to leave. So which one is next, Mr. Mayor?
You.
Me?
Yeah,
Okay, I can do
That's the
that.
only one left. I think everybody else is done.
And I have a couple to do. So, well, you have the clerk's office too. So, I will bring up my budget first.
I like that we have our own security monitoring.
Yes. All right. So the township manager's budget is proposed at, put my glasses on so I can see what I said, $289,650, which is a $5,000 increase over last year's $284,650, with all $5,000 included in office supplies. What we have found is, like everything else, the costs associated with office supplies, which also includes all of the printer toner for the township, all of our township computer printer toner cartridges are funded out of this line in the budget. That there has been a significant increase in our office supplies. And as you see, this budget is a year-to-date of 12/31. We were slightly over at 101.49%. And so I've asked for $45,000 in that line of my budget. The largest portion of my budget, as most of you know, is line 107, which is the township's emergency contingency budget of $240,000. We always hope that we don't have to spend that money, but it's there in the event that we have an emergency and need to provide funding, or for those items that come up during the course of the year that were not anticipated and not budgeted in other department budgets. This money can be utilized for that purpose as well. And generally, that's when there's an item that council during the course of the year realizes that we need, and this is where it's funded from. So that is the manager's budget. Are there any questions on that one?
Well, I commend you for not using the manager's budget. It appears year over year.
I'm a very frugal and stingy person, council member.
Yeah, we noticed that. Do we think it needs to be that number, or do we feel like
yes, it absolutely needs to be that money? That
The
number there.
The history on that, council member, used to be that each department had their own contingency fund, and we saved money by going to this method. And I actually agree with it, because right now, you notice a lot of these budgets were flat, and we all know about the inflation that's been going on. So I was going to actually ask to increase this contingency budget this year, but the fact that we only spent 17% last year, I don't think we need to increase it.
No, I think we're okay where it's at. If you recall, Mayor, when I first took over as township manager, it was at $280,000 and we decreased it by $40,000. And then over the last, that was after several years of me being manager, we brought it down to 280. I think 240 is a comfortable number. It's also, it's used for things, so you understand, it's used for things like when the sprinkler system failed in the senior center and had to be repaired on an emergency basis, we were able to provide the full funding for that repair while we waited for the insurance adjusters to do all of their work and to receive the insurance payments for the damage. So and we also used this money when we initially had the lightning strike on the radio tower at the police station. When we need money quickly, because it's under a miscellaneous line, we can use it for that purpose, even if it means that we're going to get reimbursed by insurance companies at a later date. That's another reason to have it there.
Okay, and it's overall like 1% of the overall budget or something.
Well, the overall budget's about, I don't know. We don't know what the overall budget would be, but it's $240,000 would be about
It's a third of a percent.
Third of a percent, yeah, exactly.
A third. Okay.
And it all goes back to surplus that we don't use.
It all goes back what we don't use, correct? Okay, so stop that one. And the next one I have for you, Mayor, is economic development. Economic development is a function of the township under the township manager's office. The economic development budget is proposed, and please don't follow this difference between 24 and 23 because there really was only $10,000 budgeted in this line. It's not $100,000 difference. I think there's a formula error there. The economic development budget is $15,500, which is the same budget from last year. The other contractual is previously had been $110,000 in calendar year 2022. We've moved that $100,000 out of this budget and into the planning budget, and that is the money that was funding the planning reexamination of the BI zone and the traffic study. And we've also now, this budget, removed the monies that were previously included for books and publications. There are no books and publications to purchase this year. And the conferences and meetings and professional association dues. Professional association dues covers the cost of the Somerset County Business Partnership and the Franklin Township Chamber of Commerce fees. And the conferences and meetings are for Mr. Dominic to attend conferences and meetings. So this budget is at $15,500.
So Bob, we no longer have that consultant on retainer, right?
We do not. That's correct.
And what about the fees for the Asian Chamber of Commerce and the African American?
Those come out of the HR department budget.
Okay.
Okay. And then the only other one that was forgotten, but I'm certainly capable of handling it, is the prosecutor budget.
Way up.
Which is ordinarily we do this under the court, but I can certainly handle this. So the calendar year budget for
Page
2024. Calendar year budget for 2024 is at $86,900. That's an increase of $10,900 over the 2023 budget. The increase is strictly for the pay for our three prosecutors. There's the township prosecutor, the township associate prosecutor, and the per diem alternate prosecutor. And this was as a result of a recommendation for an increase in their fees. They had not received an increase, as you see. I believe the last increase was in 2019 or 2018, certainly not in 21, 22, or 23, as shown on this spreadsheet. So that was an increase, the $10,900 to be shared by the 3 prosecutors that serve the municipal court.
And we came to that decision by looking at neighboring towns and matching what they're paying.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. And so I believe that completes the manager's budgets, and now we have the clerk budgets, correct?
Yes,
Okay, I'm just going to clean up some stuff here.
clerk's budgets.
Okay. First budget for the clerk will be the clerk. Madam Clerk?
I'm here.
Okay, so the 2024 calendar year budget proposal for the clerk's office is $48,204, which is a decrease of $38,143. So Anne Marie, I'll let you explain why there's a big giant decrease in your budget.
That's because last year, we had, the recodification project in it, and this year we don't. So that's why we're off.
And that was $38,000 last year. So that $38,000 reduction is, and then there's some shuffling of amounts through the budget lines.
What's the 38,000 reduction? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
So we are recodifying all of the municipal code, and that was a $38,000 one-time project that was budgeted in last year's operating budget.
In 2 sentences, explain for the public what recodifying is.
Anne Marie, you want to do it? Or want me to do it?
I'll do it. It's reviewing the municipal code and updating to make sure that all the state statutes that are in it are correct. It's actually, we're changing our code book to being gender neutral. And it's updating fees and updating things that should have been updated and haven't been, like taking police chief out of the budget and putting public safety director, things like that.
Right, and it also does things like when we have municipal ordinances that are no longer valid because of a change in state law, this is an opportunity to remove all of those things that should no longer be in our code and do it as one action by Township Council as opposed to hundreds of ordinance amendments. It's a recommended process that we're going through right now, actually. Any other questions on this one?
Why is legal advertising going down?
Well, it's because we're not doing as many remote ads that we used to do. The remote ads used to cost like $200 a piece. So.
If you notice, Mayor, it was $10,525 in 21, but it jumped up in 22, and then it's back down in 23. And that was because I believe that in 2020, we were short, and there was, I mean, you can see we were short in 21 because of the advertising costs related to doing a virtual meeting.
Oh. Okay.
We also no longer advertise the large tax sales because our pilot program was accepted by the state as a permanent program for online tax sales. So you don't have to put the big giant ad in anymore.
No.
Okay. All right. So that's that one. And then Anne Marie has more than one.
You might want to turn around. All your blood's going to go to your head.
The next one is elections. It was budgeted at $37,000 last year, and it's budgeted at $37,000 this year. It was also pretty close to fully expended last year. Any questions on the elections budget?
Not a whole lot we can do there.
Not a whole lot we can do there is right.
Where's the budget for the training of the election personnel?
Poll worker?
Yeah, poll
Yeah.
workers.
That's the county level.
Oh, we don't pay for that? Okay.
No, we don't.
We don't pay for that.
And then the last one is the council budget.
Last but
Yes,
not
you have
least,
your own budget. And that budget is proposed at 20,347, which is a slight decrease of $909. There's a $1,500 decrease in education and training, but a $500 increase in conferences and meetings, a $100 decrease in other contractual, and a $191 increase in professional association dues.
So I know there was some difficulty in the travel expense last year. I remember Councilwoman Udine had to put some money out from her pocket. Is that going to be
I put
addressed?
everything out of my pocket, Ron. I didn't get any reimbursement.
Right. Can we fix that somehow here?
Well, I guess we would talk about what type of travel are you talking about, Council?
Oh, that's going out of state.
This is the AAPI conferences out of town.
Then we would need to increase the budget because what we have under conferences and meetings, the majority of it is the league.
Right. I think these are some national level AAPA conferences that are coming up that I think we would like to include in the budget.
Well, that's the beauty of these hearings. That is, if you direct us to put more money in that budget, then you can direct us to put more money in the budget now rather than when we have a budget document that we're about to introduce.
So if we're talking about air travel, we're talking about a minimum of $500. And there's 9 of us. So you're talking about $4,500 plus hotel expenses. Is that something we want to do? Does our public expect us to go on these kinds of trips?
I think I think we can plan for it, not necessarily have to use it.
I think we should plan for it, as our councilman at large says, even though we may not use it, at least we have it budgeted so that we can all see it.
I'd like there to be a cap on per person. So in other words, someone doesn't take a $3,000 trip and others take no trip.
Yeah, we should take a cap on. We should have a cap so that all of us can share it evenly.
Well, there's one way in.
If we put something in the
Is there
budget,
reason? Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if we put something in there, we can come up with a system of how to equitably distribute it. Like, we could also put something in there and tell people every other year they have the ability to use it. They have to let us know by a certain time. But I mean, Bob could come up with the system. We could just put in a dollar amount and then figure out what it.
Wait, Councilman, did you just say Bob could come up with a system?
Yeah. You could like survey all the other towns and.
This is a decision of council, not the manager. If you're looking to budget for out-of-state travel, I think that's something that you all need to decide as to what you feel is appropriate for your fellow council members. I would feel.
I'm saying we can set the number, but as far as the process goes or anything else, there may be examples.
And what is the trend in the past 3 or 4 years? I mean, have we had I'm looking at 21 and 22 and 23. I see the same number.
Well, we've not done any.
We never included it.
Never, never.
Yeah,
But what
we
I
never
wanted to
included
ask-
it.
I wanted to ask Bob, what is the policy for the staff? Do they have limits on their?
So if the training is deemed as relevant to their position, the only generally the only out-of-state travel in the time that I've been the township manager has been for advanced training classes for police officers that are held out of state. Most of the time, those training courses are minimal in cost, but there's the travel associated with them. And I believe that there's some out-of-state conferences for Anne Marie as part of her national organization. So there's travel for out-of-state for those two purposes that I'm aware of during my time as manager. I don't recall any out-of-state travel for. Well, no, I take that back. The construction official has traveled out of state in the past for his national organization, our previous construction official.
Right.
So I think we can probably add on the conferences meeting, and I think we can amend that to say travel and put some, maybe a couple of thousand there, and we can take turns in doing that over the years.
Excuse me, just to add, I couldn't get my mute button undone. For any staff traveling out of state, with the exception of Philadelphia or New York City, there needs to be a resolution put in and approved by council in order to approve that travel also.
Yeah, and I know we've done that for Anne Marie. It's been on our consideration.
Yeah, every time there's out-of-state travel. And what Kathy's saying is she's correct. If they travel to Pennsylvania or New York, generally they don't stay, so we don't count that. It's when they're lodging overnight. I mean, even if you drive to California, which we wouldn't ordinarily see happen, there's still a resolution of council for out-of-state training.
How about DC travel, Kathy?
It would be the same thing.
No, absolutely. DC travel would get a resolution of council, without a doubt.
Yeah, we did a resolution.
So already, Bob, you're
for the police.
Yeah.
See, Bob, we're writing the policy right here with all this.
Well, I mean, I'm not writing the policy.
It seems some things are a budget consideration, it's a dollar amount, and other things are a policy consideration, which is going to figure out what the process is. We could talk about the process now, but this is a budget hearing. So the question is, are people supportive of adding a dollar amount? If so, what? I heard the mayor, I said governor, the mayor recommended like $4,500. That seems fine. We don't necessarily have to use it. If that's okay, we put it in there, and then we'll figure out a system.
4,500 was just for airfare for if all 9 of us did it. That was not a recommended value.
Well, I think what it says is that we can plug in a number and then we can worry about the details at a later time.
Well,
I think if we plug in a high enough number so that no matter what, it covers everything, I think we'll be foolish to come up with a $2,000 number and then all of a sudden realize we put ourselves in a box because we need to spend more than that on the individual. You see, so I don't think we should kill ourselves.
But in 21 years of me going to council meetings, 14 of which on council, no one has ever done this. I don't know that we need to cover all contingencies.
But this could be that year.
Well, I just don't want to spend the money. I mean, if we want, maybe we could do it that we pay the fee for the conference, but the council person is responsible for travel and lodging.
No, that doesn't even sound right.
Well,
Bill, Mayor, you know that doesn't sound right.
No, I
If
don't.
you're gonna go to a meeting and you've got lodging, you know you gotta pay for the lodging. You know you have to pay for the food. So to say we'll do airfare only or transportation only, it could be cost prohibitive. I mean,
We've managed all these years without it happening.
I would suggest, Carl, just leave it as is, and when it comes to the travel, and instead of having 2-3 people to go, if it's really must to go, and then one person can go, or 2 people can go based on the budget we have, and then the next year we can adjust it accordingly. More people can go.
So my question is, how come Councilwoman Dean had to foot the bill personally and it was not reimbursed? And we have money left over.
We didn't have, they said we didn't have enough money left over, right? That's what I.
It could also be, you could also choose, like, do I go to that or do I go to League of Municipalities? You may not do both. So, like, if we think of a per person stipend or a per person, professional development, education for each council member, then people could use them in different ways, but you might not be able to do everything. Right? If everyone goes to League of Municipalities, there's no money left to do anything else. That's why there's no money there.
Bob? I'm sorry. If by chance you have to spend the money and it's going to be over what we have, could your funds be expended to cover that in your contingency budget?
Well, I mean, so it could be. I don't know that it was ever intended for that purpose. I think that. So I think that I'm not the one that dictates. I don't dictate policy.
No, we're not going to use the contingency fund for travel. I think
just look at it.
Why don't we just put maybe $5,000 in this budget, and then if it gets used up, it gets used up.
By one individual or by all? That is important.
I have recommendations on the policy. I don't know that we need to discuss it now, but
Go ahead. No, we need a policy if we're gonna figure out a dollar amount.
Well, let's talk about this in admin. Let's talk about it in our admin meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I have some experience from, like, when I worked in the schools, and we might want some transparency with the council to weigh in, and maximums and different sorts of things based on the GSA. There's a lot of different pieces that you can do to address that someone's not doing it every year and someone else isn't able to do it, right? And but if folks are supportive of $5,000, that seems like it covers some folks to go, and it's never happened before. That seems like a reasonable number.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd just like to draw your attention to 042 and how much has been budgeted in 2022 and 2023. It went unexpended in both years, and that's the education and training line. And so that was reduced to 1,800 this year because council has not been attending courses that cost money, not conferences, but courses for educational purposes.
Yeah, I did cost 75.
Negative 175. I'm not quite sure why. But parentheses mean that, it got money put in, not got money taken out.
No, I was just
someone taught a course. Who taught it?
I was just saying that, Bob. This weekend I took the budget and not conference training was $75.
So I have a ask here. So I know we don't have it here. I'm looking for it. We don't have anywhere. I see printing and binding, but in terms of like the council merchants or anything like that, we don't have any official budgeting here to have like uniforms or anything like that, right?
No.
We're all just purchasing on our own based on the logo, but I know we're showing a saving of $1,500 here on education and training. Are we able to add that for the 9 of us to get consistent like merchant and that's for everyone else. It's an open discussion. I mean, I just know that we didn't have it last year. We didn't have it the year before that. But it's just something that's been thinking about.
Again, it's never been done that way. I've
The only
clothes and I pay
suggestion-
for them myself.
Yeah,
What is that? Sorry.
Just as with you, the embroidered clothes that we have, it has the town seal on it and our rank and our name. We pay for those ourselves.
Right. I just was wondering if we need to add that because it's something that just to make it consistent across all of us.
I don't have any.
Right. That's why I was, I was
Not
thinking
because
that.
I didn't buy it, just because I wear regular clothes.
Right. But I was just saying that to be consistent across, right? Like some of us have one purchased it on our own. We see across towns, people have it, right? The council
Yeah, for me,
has it.
I mean, maybe if someone wanted a name tag that they could use magnetically on anything they're wearing, that would seem reasonable. I think if we start buying clothing and embroidering it for folks, like, I do think it looks nice and it's a choice, but I'm not sure we're required in our council positions to wear a uniform of any kind. It would be a personal choice and paid for with personal funds. I also think, campaign funds can cover a lot of these things too. For folks that fundraise independently. I don't know. The uniform piece, we don't really have uniforms like some of our staff do. And I think it becomes a little confusing it's almost like a clothing allowance with a name on it.
So let me try to put this in context. You guys don't know about some of the things I know that are coming, or maybe you've heard a little bit about it. The medical cost for our employees is going way up. Am I correct in saying $1 million?
Oh, no, about $2.5 million.
Okay. So that's going to have to be passed on, or we're going to take it out of our surplus. We're going to be raising taxes, probably more than we have in 5 or 6 years. Might not be the best time to be adding travel expenses and clothing expenses. We're behind on our
Okay. I mean, I didn't know this information, but you're stating it now, so.
Yeah. Well, I, as everyone knows, I dig into the budget early and deep, and I know what's coming, and there's no shame on anyone for not knowing that. I ask a lot of questions. I spend a lot of time in the council chamber or at the municipal building. So it might be a good time to hold back.
I agree.
I don't know that like a conference is a place to hold back, in that if you can go there and learn something that could help you save money somewhere or do something more efficiently or inspire a change that will help people in the community. Education was always a really good thing to do and invest in some way. But that being said, the fact that the education line hasn't been used, it's compelling,
Yeah, I think I'm with the Ed on this. I look at the bottom line on the expenses. We have never used what was allocated. And I think as long as there's flexibility in moving money from one line item to the other, I'm not sure this is an unreasonable discussion. Because if you look at the last year, 22, we spent less than 50%. And the year before, maybe it's about the same. And this year, we are not running at the same rate as it's not run, maybe slightly higher than the run rate in 22, but we have never used up all the money. So I think even if you agree that there's a flexibility in moving the line items within our overall budget, I think we can accommodate these oddball requests that come in once in a while.
Bob, we have that flexibility?
No, I don't think so. I think that's the point. I think Councilman Uddin was told last year that there's no budget money, but I see that there's plenty of money within our overall budget, but there's no flexibility in moving the line item.
No, during the course of a budget year, you can only utilize funds appropriate to that particular budget line until transfers are permitted by state law, and transfers are not permitted until November.
So Bob, if any of us spend the money and so we have the opportunity to submit it in November for reimbursement after that transfer?
No.
Okay.
Reimbursements are not the appropriate way to allocate funds from a municipal budget. The appropriate way is to know that you're going to spend the money, generate a requisition and purchase order in advance of the spending, and then pay for it after the service or in this case, what a education or conference or whatever it is done. That's the appropriate way to spend municipal money.
Can we collapse 41 and 42 and rows 32 and 33? Can you say, I don't know if these are state categories or some sort of other.
They are state categories.
Okay. Yeah, so I think the question really is, do we want to add any money to the conference meeting budget that could come from the education and training budget? Or not? Just leave it the way it is. It seems like some people want to add money to the conferences and meetings, and if so, how much? 909 would make it no change.
There we go.
Help us $2.5 million in medical expenses and other things that are higher. So it's about choices.
So I'm sorry, I couldn't follow what you're suggesting.
I was saying if we just did $909 more in line item 41, line 32, that would make this section no increase or decrease.
Yeah.
No.
And I would suggest that look at line item number 29. That was 66% the actual. Maybe we can reduce that by 2,000 and then add that 2,000 to the conference and meeting.
The other contractual item.
So line item number 20. So line item 29 is on your screen right now. Okay. There are things that have to, so that I know this sounds silly, but these are items that get budgeted annually and at a figure, and it sounds like something that shouldn't necessarily be in the council budget, but there's these rents, and I'll let Anne Marie explain them to you. We have to pay rent for certain things, and it also, we have to budget in this budget the amount anticipated for money in, money out on the weddings performed by the mayor and deputy mayor. This is the fact that it's there at a higher number than was actually spent in calendar year 2023. If there's more weddings in 2024 than there were in 2023, we have to have the amount of money budgeted in that line, so you can't use other contractual.
But isn't that reimbursed by the fees that we charge?
It doesn't matter. You have to have an appropriation to match the revenue.
Yeah.
So you have to have that number there.
This is the difference between a municipal budget and a home budget. It's taken me years to still not understand it, but
so we have to anticipate what the revenues will be from the weddings, so that we have it as an appropriation and a revenue on either side of the ledger. Just the way you have to do municipal budgeting.
Got it.
It's kind of like we have a.
So Bob, is it like forecast versus actuals? We're just putting an estimate number just to.
That's all we can do.
Okay, okay. Makes sense.
I mean, I have no idea how many people are going to get married this year. Mm-hmm. So I have, and that money that's received has to be matched on the appropriation side, because that money goes out. You either get paid to do it, or in the case of the mayor, a donation to Second Chance for Animals.
And there'll be a revenue line matching it, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's like we have a shared service agreement with the Board of Education. All right. We do all of the mechanical work on all of their vehicle fleet. There's a revenue appropriate, there's a number on the revenue side, which is what we get from the Board of Education to pay for it. And then there's a number on the appropriation side to pay for all this stuff. In the end, it should equal zero, but you have to have it on both sides.
Yeah. I guess if everybody agrees, I'm okay to keep the budget flat and just add that 909 to the conference and meeting.
909.
What is 909?
Yeah.
That's the
Let's add that so we'll stay flat.
One person at a time. What is it?
The difference between the 23 and 24 budgets is a decrease of $909. It's the far right column.
Oh, okay. So keep that flat.
Right, and add that to line 41.
Oh. Oh, I'm not
So
gonna.
then it'd be at zero. Other, it'll come out zero, no net income or expense, no change. And that'll give us $909 in flexibility in conferences and meetings.
And that line was already increased by $500 this year.
Yeah, so that would be increased by $1,409.
But our budget will be minus 100.
No, it'll be flat.
Well, it'll be flat.
Oh, 909. I was looking at the 809. Okay.
Oh, 909.
I'm not gonna get in the way of that.
You sure?
And you would still be not spending 100% of the budgeted money anyways at the end of the year.
Right. And I think admin, we can talk about what the process might look like and kind of get some guidance out and get some reactions. So I think that'd be good.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
That's it, we're done.
I think our budget took the longest time here.
It did.
Your budget took the longest and beyond the capital.
And it was the smallest of all.
You're welcome.
All right, well, I guess we had our
Thank you.
discussion.
Have a good night, everyone.
Oh, we need to adjourn.
You need to adjourn.
Motion to
Oh, yeah.
adjourn.
Oh, 2nd.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. We are adjourned. Be well, Franklin.
Thank you.
Have a good